Hello, everybody. It's great to be here one more time today. My name is Gary Fowler. I'm the CEO, president, founder of GSD Get You Done Venture Studios, premier AI quantum venture studio located in the heart of Silicon Valley. I'm a 17-time serial entrepreneur with several unicorns under the belt. I was on the original management team of Click Software, which is sold to Salesforce for $1.35 billion. Also, Eva.ai, an AI HR tech company I co-founded with Dr. David Yang. We believe at GSD that intellectual capacity is evenly spread, but opportunities are not. Today, I'd like to welcome you to Choicely Presents. I'm your host, Gary Fowler, and today we're diving into a topic that reshaping the entire tech ecosystem. AI versus developers. Is it competition or is it collaboration? And joining me is a visionary who sits right at the intersection of both worlds. Sanjay Bhatia, CEO and co-founder of Runday.ai, a pioneer in the AI-first development movement. Sanjay, it's great to have you on the show today.
Hello, hello. Happy Monday.
So, Sanjay, let's start out with the big headline. Is AI replacing developer? Is that just fear-driven hype?
I think anytime you're talking about replacement, it's the wrong mindset. And so people forget that when a new tool emerges and they can use it, all of their competitors can also use it. And so it's just marketing is war and the weapons change, and it doesn't mean you can you got this new weapon and you can just kick back and relax. You still have to fight the good fight, right? So it's a question to me of whether this application has competitors. So if you're building an internal application that's going to be used in-house by your company, it's going to be mandated that this is what you use, and there's no other second option, then maybe in cases like that you see that as a replacement for that development team to build that app. But anything that has competitors, you're just going to need to be better, and AI gets your team to do better. I think the consensus is sort of becoming that as more senior developers and software engineers, we used to transition to management, right? Used to be, if you were 30, I'm a lot older than 30 now, but used to be at 30, you were too old to code and you would just, get into management. That world has already changed. So you have a lot of, coders that are a lot older now. But we used to go from, the coder, the lead coder perhaps, to the manager of the younger engineers who are coming in just fresh out of school or after just a little bit of experience. Well, there's not as much of a younger population. One, STEM has not been emphasized by the United States educational system, so there's not a lot of graduates. I think I heard a stat one time, China has more engineers graduating than the U.S. has graduates. So, you can take that with a grain of salt. But there's just not a lot of young workforce that you can start managing. So instead of managing entry-level engineers, we're going to start managing more AIs. And so this is just a career transition that the existing developers are going through, that they're going to become managers of AI employees rather than younger intern or entry-level employees. So there's no like, let's just fire the team and rest. That's just something the media tells you, so you keep watching.
And the one thing is, the AI is really, there's people are afraid of it, but it's really fear-driven. It's the drudgery in doing the development. 40 to 60% of the time that developers do work, coding is on repetitive tasks like debugging, documentation, testing, boilerplate code. All that stuff could be done by AI and just done in a smooth way to make their job better. So, it looks like developers are really going to move up the stream and take care of things like architecture and creativity, innovation, system thinking, those kind of things. And so in that standpoint, Sanjay, it sounds like AI is really an amplifier. But tell me can you talk about AI as a co-developer? And what do you think about that?
Oh, it's a fantastic co-developer. Just the past really few weeks, I wouldn't even say it's been a month yet, the latest versions of some of the products, the most recent of which is Gemini 3, is able to do development and design tasks at levels that were impossible, a month or two ago. And so, we're looking at new logos for clients, building websites for smaller clients that are, they can't really afford a full marketing package. And so, it's able to create a crisp animated website. We're even, kind of like defining the future design of websites as Web 4.0, where you're going to see, kind of a bullet nav. You see an answer engine front and center. Then you see maybe some social proof like testimonials or logos, core for benefits, and not much else. And so, where you used to have to build like tons of pages for different industries, for different buyer types, where everyone could read, and no one has the time for any of that anymore. It's like they just want to like show up and ask their answer engine. And these are also then answer engine optimized. So the content goes to teaching ChatGPT and Perplexity and Gemini and Grok. And so that when they're asking a question about, hey, what kind of car should I buy? Or where can I get a car like this? It goes to your website rather than, so all that still, needs a lot of development. We just have this big shift toward, optimization toward answer engines. And as we've simplified and standardized, the AI can do more and more. But I'd like to add that, that idea that half the work is, drudgery, that's been true for decades and decades. I worked at Microsoft, we had C++, we had these template languages, and the template languages made like the C stuff easier. And then, they became hard. And then, we had at the time it was like Microsoft Foundation classes. There's always the next new thing that cuts half of the work, right? It's always happening. AI is no different. And then, but then it's competitive, and so now you got to have, people's heads have to have circles instead of squares in pictures, and new stuff always emerges, and you gotta keep fighting the good fight. So you never stop, right? It's even though we systematically in software engineering remove half the work, the demand for engineers has just increased and increased. And it's going to continue until there's a demographic shift where there's a lot more young people than old people. Like this isn't going to be any different.
So the AI can go down and write the code, propose some type of architecture, test scenarios, vulnerability testing, fix bugs, spin up. But at the same time, the human developer still sets a strategy, looks for the overall quality, and drives a vision. But how long do you think it's going to be? We're going to get to a point where the code can start writing itself. It knows what it should do. We don't
Well,
even have.
it depends on if you want to scale. So if you're talking about MVPs and prototype level applications, it's almost there. I mean, you can build a nice, beautiful app that doesn't scale at all, with AI right now. And so I'd say the latest Gemini, I mean, there were some demos where it was building, grand things that look like Grand Theft Auto and different things. But, as long as you're not trying to make it profitable and efficient, scalable, it can build an app you can show off to investors, to, the initial customers. But you'll need an engineering team to kind of re-engineer. It'll help you figure out what to build, right? You'll still need an engineering team that also uses AI to build that application out. But I think the good news is these initial apps used to be you build an ugly app and then make it pretty later, right? So what we're able to do now is just build a beautiful app to, at the very beginning of the process. It's not scalable, may not be integrated, may not be flexible, but it'll be beautiful. And you can build a beautiful app, deliver that, see how people respond to it, see what people actually use, like those situations where you have a small number of users initially. It's great for those. And then, you figure out what works, and you can afford to throw it away. And now you have a amazing template of what to build, and you know exactly what it'll look like. So you can give that to an engineering team, perhaps offshore, who doesn't have great usability and design skills, but they're great coders. So a great coder can take a great design and now it's the right design. So that's really the innovation, is we can build these prototypical apps that very quickly, and you build 10 of them. It's not even about building one faster. Build 10 of them, see which one, see which one wins, right? And then go hire some engineers to build the winner.
So do you think developers trust AI yet, or are we still early?
Yeah, the good ones do. There's ones that are resistant, that are just, I think, we have some partner companies. They have developers that they've done the same thing for 7 years. They don't want to change, and so they have a concern. They just don't want to change, but then they use fear to justify not adapting. But no, I think the developers that are in growth mode in their careers and at their companies, they're embracing everything they can, because there's competition, and so if you can get a little bit of an edge a little bit faster, you take it.
It seems to me kind of like we're in a calculator moment, right? Where when the calculators arrive, accountants were terrified. Now you'd never work without one. And it's
Yeah.
kind of like, or a computer, right? It's the same thing with the computer. Well, I'm not going to use that. This thing will break down. But now you can't imagine not having it. So, people often say AI reduces the distance between idea and execution. What do
Yeah.
you think?
Oh, absolutely. You can test out your bad ideas. Like logo directions. Like we've been doing that. We've been using Gemini 3 to create logos, and we have a concept for a logo, and then you work with it, and you realize, oh, this is too complicated, or this is a bad direction. So it lets you pivot much faster. You see what that direction looks like, and you're like, you know what, let's do something else. Just like you would with a designer, right? So the difference is you're doing this in a matter of minutes rather than weeks or maybe even months.
And it's kind of interesting because you look at it and, historically software developers really you had to have deep technical knowledge. It took a long time to build the stuff, maybe some months or years. You needed a pretty big team. It was expensive. But now a founder can, we even because of their own domain expertise, can build something with nearly zero coding skills and build the prototypes or
Yeah.
workflows using agents. I mean, it's changed. It's democratization. It's changing, and the people that pick up on it are going to be do phenomenal things. What are developers still uniquely better at than AI from your perspective? Do you think?
Scalability, actually engineering something that performs and scales, like that's fast and efficient and scales. AI is just not. I mean, they can help you find problems, but AI is not going to create a scalable app that's secure and high quality and is profitable in terms of like its compute costs are minimized. It's just not going to do any of those things. It's going to create something that looks amazing. You can show your initial customers and investors and really use to figure out the product market fit. So I think we're going to go from, where it used to take, a couple years to find product market fit. We'll find that a lot faster.
Um, do you think that things like contextual understanding, AI can't really understand long-term product strategy or intuition. Developers feel what should be built, not just what's possible. And then what about ethics, Sanjay? What do you think about that?
Well, so AI is able to look at the strategy, and it's a great plagiarist, right? So it is that it's you could almost call it simulated intelligence because like you think about even the most advanced forms of AI, like a self-driving car, when humans learn to drive, they don't need millions of hours of practice, right? They need whatever it is, hundreds of hours maybe, so you get your learner's permit, you drive for 100 hours with your family, and then you can drive now. So AIs can't do that, right? They can't watch 100 hours of footage and know what to do. They need orders of magnitude more training data. So you could almost call what we have as simulated intelligence. It's simulating a human being, but to do a proper simulation, you need a ton of data, way more than the actual thing you're simulating, right? So that's that part. And then the ethical part is, the industry is figuring, there was some kind of collaboration and some legal, suits between these music producing companies and the industry because they're leveraging all these artists like Sony, whoever, have all these artists that's theirs, and they're putting out their own kind of models that they own and can control better. And then the companies who are not, they're getting, just like Napster did, and just like all these streaming services did when that was new. They're getting the lawsuits with the music industry, and so we're navigating that right now. So how does it work? In the end, it's going to happen, right? Just like streaming happened. It just took Apple to catalyze it, right? So it's going to take a potentially a big player, perhaps it's Suno, perhaps it's someone else, to do that. So there is sort of an ethical element that we always navigate with new technology and new types of businesses, where the old businesses that are, they got to get their cut, or it needs to at least be somewhat fair, and not that the new business just through piracy or through streaming or through whatever is just taking all the profit. So they're the artists, the existing agents, and we gotta navigate who gets what, right? So it's not it's not a fight for is this going to happen or not. It's a sort of like how is the rev share breakdown, and so that's got to be figured out. So I don't know, if that answers the ethical answer, but in terms of the commercial answer, everyone's got to get their cut and stay. The people big enough that they have the power to fight to stay relevant, they're going to stay relevant. It's just going to look a little bit different, just like digital music did, and just like streaming did.
So, what do you think about junior level developers? Do you think they're going to lose opportunities because an AI can now do their work?
Not at all. No, exact opposite.
Do you think
Exact
it's a little
opposite.
shifting? And like when we look at it shifting, instead of like spending doing the boilerplating stuff, do you think they're going to move upstream to architecture? They're going to start doing system design a lot faster. They're going to work with AI agents. Do you think they're going to do that? And where do you think it is right now? Where do you think it'll be in another 2 years?
Remember, developers tend to be specialists, right? They're either on the database side or the back end or the front end, or in the end, they tend to do like one thing really well. But the customer doesn't want one thing; they want the whole package. So it'll allow much smaller teams of junior developers to work together with the AIs. That more like a one man band kind of thing, where you play your instrument, but maybe you got a buddy like I think we'll see a lot more, and we've already have like we're going to see a lot more small agencies that are just two people, you know, or just two brothers, however it ends up happening, but they can get together and act like a much bigger team and do full projects rather than specialize on, I only do the database connection for this part of the system, right? So I don't know about architect, but they'll be able to just, act like small teams when there's only one or two people.
So, do you believe AI eventually write entire application autonomously?
It
Or
will, it absolutely will, but it doesn't matter. Just because it does doesn't mean there's not better. It's like Elon was saying that their like a AAA game will be able to be created by AI. It's like, yeah, sure, but there's lots of AAA games that fail all the time, right? So will it create games that fail? Absolutely. Just like humans create games that fail, but to actually win, you're gonna just need to do the best of everything, have the best designers, engineers. You need both great looks and great skill. Yeah, there's been lots of games that beautiful game and the one player, but it was more of a multiplayer game, and then the servers melted when they got way too many players on it, that kind of thing. So yes, AI will absolutely create incredibly high quality applications that fail commercially, just like developers do, right? But you're gonna need teams of people that are left brain, right brain, plus AI, all to come together to win. If you want to get game of the year, if you want to get profitability, that will AI will not create profitable apps. No.
and so if we look at it, especially for enterprise grade systems, that need security and privacy and reliability, humans are going to stay in the core of these
Yeah.
decision making processes. And so you can see a world where 80% of the AI is building this stuff, and then the humans are validating the 20% that really matters, right? At this point. But how far out do you think that's going to be, Sanj? Is it 2 years from now, 1 year from now, 5 years? What do you think?
It depends more on the political regime. Currently there's like the get an H-1B from India. They're suggesting it's going to be $250,000 cost, right? So, this training a junior American to be better, make economic sense. Yeah. And with those numbers, it does, right? And so I think there's an element of we got to solve immigration.
And how's that going to affect the U.S.? What do you think, Sanjay, with this pressure, like just in India with a $250,000 for an H-1B? How do you think it's going to help the U.S. in terms of being competitive?
Well, right now we're at the extreme, so you can't get in at all, right? Or you get in illegally through nefarious means. There's no balance in the force, and so we'll achieve balance. So once the worst case scenarios of the criminally incline coming into the country, once that's actually solved, then those maybe it's a new political regime, I don't know, but we'll return to balance in that way. And Latin America is also really exploding as a source of engineers. There's a lot of great Latin American engineers that I do work with and I have worked with. So you're going to see more nearshoring to Latin America. But you will the demand for developers is only going up. It's going to allow the junior developer to do some more senior work, and it's going to let senior engineers like transition to managers. And it's also about the educational system. Do they succeed in transitioning back to STEM, and not have all these kind of degrees that don't have any market value? I mean, China has banned them, right? So if you can't prove as a university that there's market demand for a certain career, then you have to severely limit how many graduates or how many candidates you let into that program. We just let everyone, just jump into these, just get into a lot of debt and just pursue degrees that have no value in today's world.
So, when you talk about the team structure, the engineering teams are really going to shift, right? They're going to be smaller teams, more product centric roles,
Yeah.
fewer handoffs. AI agents are going to act as members of the workflow and visible members. So, do you think it'll evolve to a situation where you've got one PM, two senior devs, and then 48 AI agents, and that's going to be a team, and that they're going to be able to do what 20 or 30 developers do today? Do you see that evolving over the next couple of years?
You'll be able to do less with more, absolutely, but so will your competition. So there's not an answer to that. It depends on how competitive is it. If you're trying to create a AAA game, right, and win or make like a high end movie or whatever it is, if you want to like really do a big thing, you're not worried about costs, right? You're just throwing every tool and every person you can hire at it. Like that's not going to change. At the low end where it's not competitive, yeah, I think you'll get a lot of cost savings where it's an internal app. There's no competition. The quality is less important. People have nothing to switch to. Those scenarios, yeah, you'll see that. But I think the mindset of let me reduce headcount is just not rewarded in modern capitalism. It's sort of like it's really hard to hire good people. It's very expensive. So how can I use as much AI as possible to increase my capabilities, right? To win the prize, to get to that number one position in that genre or subgenre or micro vertical that you're competing in, right? It's a growth mindset that's going to win. The cost cutters are just going to go out of business. Anyone just, oh, let me cut costs because I can. That someone else will use AI to expand, and they're going to eat your lunch.
So, CTOs are going to have to prepare for this, and they're going to have to, so one of the things I would think is they need to make sure they understand the tools and they evaluate those tools early. The teams, how open do you think teams are to working with AI today compared to they were 2 years ago? Are
Oh, I
they?
mean, we have, we're approaching 1 billion people who are leveraging AI on a daily basis, right? So there's not that many people left. I mean, just like mobile, saturated half the world's population, AI is going to do it even faster. So there's probably not going to be anybody left. I mean, if you're a CTO and you're not using any AI, maybe you work for the government. I don't know, but I don't know that you have a job already. And then it's going to be a crucial. I mean, just like hiring was, right? So if you were a CTO and you were bad at hiring, well, your competitors are better at hiring. You're going to get the talent. There was a good a meme today about Apple Park and how Apple was losing employees to Google and other companies because they had these campuses where your laundry was done, the meals were free, you didn't have to worry about anything, and people were leaving Apple working for Google, and then they were building Apple Park, which seemed obscenely expensive because it was like whatever it was, $5 billion. And so they were sort of saying, hey, this is like Steve's last big project. But the numbers are in now, and that 5 billion people are working more effectively. They're taking less sick days. So Apple Park was a $5 billion investment that more than paid off. They got a huge ROI just in terms of the employee productivity. So you gotta think about it from that context, like what happens in the end long term. Sometimes like the obvious quick shortcut type of things we think about aren't the way to go. You got to invest big in big ideas like Apple Park. And it may take time to figure out that that's the right strategy. But when you win, it doesn't matter who the losers are, right?
So, when we look at ethical concerns around AI written code, so how do we get down through and use that so we know that this stuff isn't plagiarized or taken from somebody else? We understand how we understand that it's something that we can use and there's no IP issues with it, right? How do we know?
That's a hard one. Um, and it's I don't think the courts have enough precedent on that yet. We had all kinds of lawsuits where you remember Windows versus Apple, where they sued about the design, and the end result was that in some cases you could patent or kind of copyright or do what do you call it, the design trade secrets, design patents, utility patents. So all those things have worked out differently. And so some of this stuff's going to have to be battled out in the courts to see where the line is. And once we have precedent, then we'll know the answer.
What are the biggest misconceptions about AI and software development today?
I think the biggest one is one, just that this idea of cost cutting when you're in a competitive situation is, you can just cut costs and save some money. It's just not true. You're going to suffer in some other way on the top line. That's the big one. I think it's also this idea that you can scale what the AI built, which is not really the case. Like what it built is so like kind of packaged together. It's not, you're not going to take that code and expand it to a scalable system. You're going to have to rebuild it anyway. And you may rebuild it with AI helping.
So, I think is a lot of AI wants your job. No, it just wants your tasks, right? And people think that AI can build anything. Really, today it's not true. Whenever there's some ambiguity, it struggles with it. It can't figure it out. And the other thing is, AI is going to make the coding too easy. In reality, it changes the expectations for developers. It changes everything. So, Sanjay, you know, um, where do you see the future of AI and developers in the next 5 years?
It's expanding rapidly. We will move toward being able to create even like AAA game type of things, with pure AI, with you just say, hey, I want a game that's like this, that, but with these characters, whatever, that is definitely going to be possible and is starting to become possible with some things like simple websites and landing pages today. And the industry's got to understand how do you use these tools to compete. Just because you can do it doesn't mean it's going to work in the marketplace.
And so what do you think about AI native companies? Will How fast do you think they'll outpace traditional development organizations? What kind of an increase?
I mean, if you look at the companies in general, like whatever it was, 40% of the value of the S&P 500 or the growth of that is, the Magnificent Seven, who are all AI companies. So yeah, the companies that embrace AI will crush the others, and there won't be any non-AI companies left.
So, Sanjay, we're coming up to the top of the show. It's been a great conversation, and we've talked about AI powered development, the future of engineering. It's amazing. It is refreshing, and it's going to change everything. So, closing thoughts, and how do people get a hold of you?
Yeah, just at Runday, we build AI brand ambassadors through a no-code environment that lets them go out and initiate conversations and bring buyers into your funnel, booking your calendar. And if you guys might be interested, give me a holler at Sanjay at Runday.ai.
All right. Thanks, Sanjay. And thanks, everybody, for joining one more time. Choicely Presents. My name is Gary Fowler, and I'm your host. Stay happy, stay safe, and stay healthy. And we'll be back to you again soon with another exciting edition. Take care, everybody. And thanks, Sanjay.
Thanks, Gary.